Hello and welcome to a quick introduction to Google Docs. Okay then, to get started, the first thing we want to do is to say that I'm in Google Chrome, the browser, and I've signed into my account on Google, and then I'm going to go onto the 9-pack and I'm going to look for Google Docs. Now Google Docs isn't in the top part of my list, so I'm going to click onto where it says More. And here I can see Google Docs. So I click onto Google Docs, and Google Docs after a few moments will open. Now here I can see the various docs that I've got, and here I want to create myself a new document. So I click on that plus sign, and it creates me an untitled document. I can tell it's an untitled document because it's got the wonderful legend Untitled Document at the beginning there. Now here I've then got the menu bar that shows me the items, File, Edit, View, Insert, Format, Tools, Add-ons and Help. And then underneath here I've got a set of buttons that will also help me to create things inside of Google Docs. Now when I did the introduction, the first thing I did was I went to Tools and I went to Add-ons and used the speech recognition sound writer and clicked on Start. If I now come over here and choose the record button, this is now ready to start listening to exactly what I say and changing it and putting it on as text into the word processor. Full stop. New paragraph. This means that I can just talk to the computer and it will actually put my words down, correctly spelt, into the document. Full stop. The problem is that it doesn't necessarily use punctuation as I speak, so I still need to go back and edit it to make sure it's okay. Okay, I've now turned the recorder off and I'm just going to close that so that we can actually look at the text that I've got here and we can look at some of the editing options. So the first thing I can do is I could use my mouse cursor to position myself anywhere inside of this text just by pointing and clicking. I can then edit the text by pressing the Enter key to add a new line in, for example, or I could change the capitalization. So if I wanted the word processor to have a capital W, I can put my cursor at that word and add in the capital W quite easily. The other things that we've got are these tools across here. Now the first one is the undo button, and I've just added a capital W. So if I click on the undo button, it's taken out that W, and then the second undo would put the other smaller case W in there. I could redo just by clicking on the next button along, which is the redo button. I've then got the print button, which would allow me to print, and the next one across is the format painter. We'll come back to that one because we've not got anything to paint at the moment. Here I've got the view. At this moment it's set to 100%. Now my eyesight's not as good as it could be, so I tend to work at about 125% so that I can actually see the text a bit bigger. The next one across says normal text, and so this is normal text for the word processor at the moment. And here if I click onto normal text, I can say, well, I want that first bit to be a title, and so it enlarges it and makes it bigger. Or I could say it's not a title, it's going to be a heading, and so that's a heading 1, a heading 2, a heading 3, etc. Or indeed I can come back and turn it back into normal text. Now the next thing is to say that this is the shape of the characters Verdana. Now I like Verdana, which is why it's set to Verdana, but if I highlight some text, and to highlight the text all I did was I put my cursor at the beginning of the text, held down my left hand mouse key and dragged it across the text that I want to use, I could change that to one of the different fonts that's available. And the fonts are broadly into two categories. There's sans serif, which is one of the ones that we've got at the moment, and then there is serif. And a serif font has got these little twiddly bits on the end of the T and at the bottom of the H. And these twiddly bits are called serifs. So serif font is one that's got those twiddly bits, and a sans serif font is one without the twiddly bits. And different people have got different preferences. I like Verdana, so I can come back over here, change it from the Merriweather font to Verdana. Verdana will be down the bottom here somewhere. There it is. And again, I can choose whichever font I actually like for whatever I'm doing. Again, I can highlight my text. The next one across is the size of the font. Now I've gone for a size 12, and this is measured in points. And 72 points is a 1-inch high character. So 12 points gives you some indication about how high that character will be. Now it's good practice to use 12 or 14, especially if you're writing to people who may possibly have, starting to struggle with their eyesight. If I come down to 8 points, it's very difficult to read, even when I've got this magnified. So I can go to 12. I can, of course, make it big. So I can go to 72 points. And so I can make things really big. So if I was going to write a notice or something of that nature, I could use very large characters. Across here, I've got bold. And bold, as you can see, makes the characters bold. And it's a toggle switch, so I could use the same switch to switch it on as I do to switch it off. The next one is italic, and all that does really is put the characters on a bit of a slant. So again, you can have them on a slant. The next one across underlines the characters, so I can underline something. And then here I've got the one that allows me to change the text colour. So perhaps I fancy writing in a sort of blue rather than in black. So again, I can actually choose the colour that I want to use. Again, I'm just going to turn that back to black. The next one is Eliza highlight colour. So if I could highlight, I've now got that text highlighted in red. Again, it allows me to draw the eye to that particular piece, but I'm going to turn that back to none. Here then, we've got the ability to insert a link. So if I want to create a link to the BBC web page, I could type in BBC web page. Oops. And if I highlight that, I could then click onto where it says the create a link. It's got BBC web page as the text, and there I could type in bbc.co.uk and apply. And there, that is now a link to the BBC web page. Now, note if I say change that, and I change that to ITV web page, the text still says BBC. And so this is one of the problems that you have to have and you need to be aware of when we're working with computers, is just because a link says something doesn't necessarily mean that that's exactly where it's going to go. Moving across there, the next one across allows us to add comments. Well, what this would allow us to do is I could click onto my BBC web page, click onto the add comments and say, be careful of links. And there I've now got a comment associated with that particular note, so I can actually make it easy for other people to read. The next one across would allow me to insert an image. So I can click on image, and it says I could upload it from my computer, search the web, search my drive, search my photos, go by the address of there, or I could use the camera. Well, let's use the camera. Oh, there's me, ready to actually sort of do some work. So I'm going to click on that, and then click on insert, and there I've now inserted that picture into my document. I can click onto there, and I can see now I've got the editing that allow me to make that picture a little bit smaller. I could wrap the text around it so that the text doesn't actually sort of control that. I can move the picture about just by dragging it, and so again I can actually create myself a nice little image inserted into my document. I'm just going to move down a little bit more. The next ones are alignment of the text. So if I type in some text alignment, and so if I click on here, at the moment the text is aligned against the left hand edge. The next one is center align, and as you can see the text is now centered. Click on it again and I've got right aligned, so now the text is right aligned. The final one on that list is the fully justified. So let me click onto this paragraph here, and if I now click onto align fully justified, both left hand and right hand edges are now square. Now some people like the look of this, but for other people this can create difficulties because the gap between the letters can create rivers of white through the text that make it difficult for some people to read. Okay, so what have we actually looked at? Well, we've looked at Launch, Google Docs, we looked at the way that we can actually use speech to text. We've looked at the toolbar. We've inserted an image, and we looked at text alignment. Finally, we're going to look at spell check. Here I've got a spelling error. So if I point to where I've misspelt the word speech, I can right click on the word speech and it says, did I mean speech? So I can click onto there and it corrects it. It doesn't like toolbar. So if I right click onto toolbar, it says toolbar should be one word. So again, I can left click onto toolbar and it's now one word. Now you'll have noticed that the final things that I missed on here was this button here, this one here, which is line spacing, and that allows me to add 1.5 line spaces or 2 line spaces between to spread things out. The next one across allows me to number a list, or I can actually choose different styles of numbering as well. So I can number my list, or I could use bullet points if there is no real sequence to them. I can also indent the paragraphs, or indeed I can take those indents out again. And finally here I've got one that's called clear formatting, and what clear formatting does is it allows me to clear the formatting of anything I've got inside my document. So if I click onto, I've got some text highlighted, if I click onto clear formatting, it takes out the formatting that was the double line spacing. Okay, the final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click into where it says Untitled Document, and what it's done there is it's picked up the first paragraph automatically. Well, that's too much, so I'm just going to say welcome to Google Docs, and there we are. I've now created myself a Google Docs document. Talk to you later. Bye.